fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and we just finished reading Obsidian Butterfly by Laurell K. Hamilton. I enjoyed this book so much more than I thought I would, and I'm really excited to get into the final discussion questions. Just a reminder, this week is the week of Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. We aren't reading anything this week. We finished up this one, and we aren't starting December's book of the month, which is Lady Boss by Jackie Collins, until next week. There will still be a video next Monday. It's going to be my final thoughts video, but we aren't reading anything, so you can use this week to either catch up if you're not quite all caught up, or jump into Lady Boss if you just want to get a head start. There are a lot of chapters in Lady Boss, and so we're reading 26 chapters roughly each week. So yeah, you can certainly get a head start on that, or you could just relax, take it easy, and enjoy Thanksgiving. Kind of whatever you do, this is kind of a free week, but there will still be a video next week. And if you want the breakdowns of the chapters and information on how to get a copy of Lady Boss, you can find those in the description below. We are gonna jump into our discussion questions in just a moment, but as always, I do like to just discuss the weekly reads. We are finishing up Lost and Found by Jacqueline Sheehan. I'm already done, and you can see I have a lot to talk about on Wednesday. And so my thoughts on this one will be out Wednesday. I hope you will definitely check out that video. Absolutely love this book, and it hit a lot different now that I'm in my 30s and married than it did when I first read it in my 20s. So, really excited to talk about this one. This week, we are going to be reading Wyoming Giant by John S. McCord. Again, this one has been on my shelf for years and years and years, and I always think, oh, that looks interesting, but I've never actually read it. I did choose this one based on my mom, so I'm excited to read this one starting on Wednesday. And then next Wednesday, my sister's birthday is the beginning of December, so I decided the first 2 weeks in December we are going to do our weekly reads based on her. Her favorite author, of course, is Stephen King. If you've been following this channel, you'll have heard me say that multiple times. And so we are going to be reading different seasons by Stephen King. It's another one that I had on my shelf. I'm sure she gave it to me. And so I thought we would read this one. It is a little bit longer than what I normally pick for weekly reads because I try to keep it, less than 400 pages. Then this one's just over 500, but I just wanted to read this one. I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis. So if you would like to participate as I read this and you're like me and need a physical copy, you do have time to get one, but let me go ahead and let you know what it's about so you can see if you're interested. It says, in the body, basis of the film Stand By Me from Columbia Pictures, four rambunctious young boys plunge through the facade of a small town and come face to face with life, death, and intimations of their own mortality. Plus, an unjustly imprisoned convict seeks a strange and startling revenge. A teenager becomes both the puppet and the puppet master of evil. A disgraced woman is determined to triumph over death. These are your guides to the ultimate in fascination as Stephen King shows us the horror that lurks within us all. So, of course, most people are familiar with the film Stand By Me. I know I've seen that multiple times, but really excited to read this one coming up. Again, links are in the description below where you can find that. And then, of course, we also do a Throwback Thursday every Thursday where I cover different childhood books. And we do a series Saturday. I'm taking a little bit of a break from that. And I am going to kind of play around with that, and it's going to kind of look a little bit different. I don't think I'm going to be doing it every Saturday anymore. I'm going to kind of be working my way through the series and then just giving updates on Saturdays here and there. And so if you're not already, please do subscribe, hit the bell notification, and also give this video a like while you're at it. Likes and comments are the best way to support, any of these booktubers, YouTubers in general that you are watching. That's what helps us grow our channels. And so I really hope you will help support me. But let's go ahead and jump into the discussion questions. As always, we are discussing these chapters and these characters, so there is a certain level of spoilers, especially now that we're towards the end of the book. So if you're not all caught up, or you haven't read it at all, don't hesitate to jump off this video if you don't want any spoilers. If you haven't read it though, it might entice you to read it, so I hope you'll stick around because I definitely encourage you to read it, especially if you're into supernatural stories and such. But let's go ahead and jump into the discussion questions. I also want to add a trigger warning. It'll come up more in my final thoughts video, which, like I said, will be out next Monday. But in one of these chapters, it does deal with assault and abuse of children. So just be aware of that as we're discussing this. I don't go into depth or anything like that, but it's also something to be aware of if you're reading the book as well and you haven't read it yet. So just keep that in mind. We're starting with chapter 49. If Anita had known just how dangerous the vampire master was, would it have changed how she interacted with her? And so I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce the vampire master's name. So we're just gonna refer to her as the vampire master. She's the master of Albuquerque, and she has her own little club and everything like that. But I don't honestly think it would have changed how Anita interacted with her at all. I think having that information, she would have still needed to go, and she probably would have been even more inclined to kind of go undercover and make it more official as far as like being police business, which we do see coming up. Um, but yeah, I think Anita runs a lot like she likes to have all the information, but at the same time, she really relies on her like instinct and intuition more so than like planning things out. Like she likes to have that information, but when it comes down to it, she's relying on her own instinct and intuition. So I don't think it would have changed a whole lot because she still needed to go talk to her. um so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Chapter 50. Anita is heading back into Obsidian Butterfly, this time with the police. Even with the new knowledge, what led to this decision? And so the artifacts, like they needed more information on the artifacts, and that was the only place to go. And I think with the new knowledge, she recognized the importance of the distinction that she is there on police business, which she was kind of relying on in the beginning anyway, and not recognizing that just because they're on police business, like that tie to the vampire and to Richard the werewolf still plays a part, and you still have to kind of look at the politics of those circles, even if you are there on police business. But I think it was important to her to make it very distinct, like I'm here with the police, just so that they could recognize that line, I think. So 51. Anita almost seems seduced by the power of the master vampire. Why didn't she resist as she did before? And so part of it, when she was talking to the witch after the witch saved her, the monster had ripped open the missing part of her. That's because of her connection to Jean Claude and Richard, the vampire and the werewolf. And so she has like these missing parts of her, and the witch said that would make her more susceptible to psychic attacks. So I think that's part of it. Like she's kind of more open to that influence. And also it was a very different dynamic in the first interaction with them. You know, initially it was the influence of the um human servant of the vampire, and then when she did meet with the vampire, she was already kind of on edge from that interaction. And then there was the whole scene with like the kind of the torture of the other vampires and such. So it was a very different dynamic where this one they were kind of out in the open, and the influence initially came directly from the master vampire, so she wasn't already on edge, I guess. And like I said, she's already more susceptible because the monster had taken away the defenses, and she's weakened by her connection to Jean Claude and Richard. So that's kind of my take on it, anyway. And 52. Was the intimacy of sharing knowledge and power with the master vampire necessary to get the information Anita needed. And I think it wasn't necessary to get the information so much as it was necessary to understand it, if that makes sense. And it was a little bit because there was kind of a disconnect as far as like communication between the two. And so it allowed the master vampire to be fully aware of what Anita was asking, like fully understand what she was asking, and then it allowed Anita to fully understand the answers. So I do think it was necessary, but not necessarily to get the information itself, but to understand that information, if that makes sense. And 53, the vampire's power played an instrumental role in getting Baco to talk, but how much of what Anita did was her? And I think really the power was the tool she used to get him to talk, but the delivery um and the threat were all Anita. I think, if she didn't have the vampire's power, like she would have found a way to use something else, and the delivery and the threat of that would have been the same. And I kind of look at it like alcohol, it lowers your inhibitions, but that predisposition is still already there. It just lowers the inhibitions to use it. And so that's kind of what I look at it like that was Anita. It's just she was more inclined to go that route, and more open to it, if that makes sense. And 54, part of the plan is to have Olaf do what he does. How does this highlight how monstrous Olaf is? And I think, it really highlights it because they're hoping that Olaf, the way he kills, is in a similar enough manner that it will be mistaken for a monster kill and not a human kill. And I think that just really shows like the fact that they even think there's a chance that that can be mistaken just shows how truly deranged and monstrous Olaf is for sure. So, and 55, Riker's men carefully maintain the upper hand. Could they be considered an even match for the others? And I think as far as like technical skill and training, definitely. But as far as how dangerous they are, definitely not. Like they're kind of missing a certain factor there. And I don't really know what it is. Um, but I think like it's almost like a lack of humanity. Almost, I mean, Anita's very human, but like when she goes into that place, like there's no weakness, like there's no human weakness there really. I mean, there is. I don't know how to explain what it is exactly, but I don't think they really match how dangerous they are because they're missing a certain element there. But as far as like technical and stuff, like they knew what they were doing, and that's how they were able to maintain the upper hand because they recognized how dangerous, and so they really followed like those safety protocols. But they were just missing that certain factor that makes Anita and Edward and the others so dangerous for sure. And this is where the trigger warning comes in with the children. So it's number 56. Would Riker have stopped the abuse if Anita had reacted in any other way? And I don't think he would have. I think if she had gotten angry or, even like started crying or pleading with him, which I don't see Anita doing that, but, if she had gone that route, um, or even if she had tried to play it cool and like acted indifferent, I don't think he would have stopped. But because I think he could, maybe think that she was faking a little bit, but I think that pure physical reaction kind of gave him pause because one, it's hard to fake, and two, he's like, I need her, and so if she's physically unable to do it, I need her to be physically able to do this. And so I think that's why he ended up stopping, where I don't think any other reaction from her would have gotten the same response. So, and 57, how was Anita able to take the men by surprise? And it was really by exploiting what they think as their power as men, and using that to exploit that's a weakness. And so yeah, I think, Anita, why she is a very strong, powerful woman and doesn't really, you know, always like to play that part. She does use that to her advantage, like when her femininity to her advantage when necessary. And I think that's really where another one of her strengths lies. Like she knows how to walk that line and use that to her advantage when she needs to. The fact that she is a woman, even though she knows that she's strong and powerful and she can go toe to toe with a man no problem, she uses that femininity to her advantage when she needs to, for sure. So, and 58, was Anita right about Riker, about why Riker believed Edward, or was it something else? And I think she was, for the most part. I think um when you're dying like you do, you want to believe anything. But at the same time, I almost think it's kind of hard. It's like a very complicated like situation here. But in this situation, Edward and Anita and even Olaf and Bernardo, they're almost the supposed to be the good guys in the situation. And so I think Riker wanted to believe, well, he's a good guy, so good guys wouldn't lie. That's kind of a weakness on their part. Like they want to do what's right and what's good, not recognizing that they're not the good guys. Like it's kind of this complex situation, but they're not the good guys. Like even though in this dynamic they would fall into that role, they're not the good guys. And so I think that's part of it too. Like they're kind of in that role, and so he wants to believe them because they're the good guys. They wouldn't lie to me. But I think it is like when you're dying, you just want to believe whatever's going to save you, I think. So, and 59, is Edward's choice to give Peter the gun and the implications that go with it preferable to the alternative? And so this kind of ties back into the trigger warning and such. And I think it really depends. I mean, he's so young, he could have his whole life ahead of him, and he could heal from whatever traumas inflicted on him. But I think in this situation, like Edward recognized, like if we don't save him, there's gonna be nobody else to come along and save him. And so, you're looking at years and years potentially of a torture and abuse and such. And so I think he recognized that. And I think he also maybe recognized that the kid needed to feel like he had some control and could do something. And so I think that's why he gave him the gun. And 60, is Edward's love for the kids a weakness? And normally I would say love's not a weakness. Like it certainly can be if you kind of let your emotions get the better of you. But generally speaking, I think it's a strength. In Edward's case, though, he is so damaged. I don't think he really knows what to do with that love, and so it does make him weak because he doesn't know what to do with it. And so yeah, I think in his case it is a weakness, but generally speaking, I think while your emotions can get the better for you, I think they can also be used to help you as well, and drive you forward, and they can be a strength. So I think it's kind of this fine line between either side. And 61, Peter already had a certain maturity because of how he lost his father. At this point, is there any innocence left? And again, it just ties back to kind of that trigger warning. And at this point, I don't think there is anything left. Like he already kind of had lost a lot of that innocence just based on how his father died and everything like that. But now, like that last little shred of it, there wasn't much left to begin with, but now there's it's gone. Um, like it's just gone for sure. So 62, Olaf not only saved Anita, but gave her what is his version of a compliment. What changed between them? And I think Olaf recognized that dark side of Anita, and connected to it. And I think just how she handled herself in general really earned his respect in kind of a diluted way, but not diluted, like, I don't know what word I'm looking for. Um, but yeah, I think, he kind of earned her respect, or she earned his respect, and just how she handled and how she jumped right in to, like, just overall how she handled herself, and then that darkness he saw in her, like, he connected to something in her, and I think that's what really changed the dynamic. 63. Was there any other way for Anita and Bernardo to handle Marks? And I don't think so. Not without wasting a lot of time. Because Marks is the type that he's not going to listen to anything they say, and he's kind of on a power trip. So I don't think there was really any other way to handle him other than just wasting a lot of time and, trying to get out of there as soon as possible. I think they did what was necessary for sure. 64. With his newfound feelings, is Olaf more or less dangerous to Anita? And I think he's more dangerous to her because before, like, he didn't like her, but she didn't really have the capacity to disappoint him. Where now, because he has this, like, attraction to something he sees in her, like, she's gonna disappoint him, and that's gonna make him more angry than and more likely to act on that anger than just her, you know, not really being on his radar. Other than she's just a woman, she's beneath him. And so yeah, I think it's definitely more dangerous for her. And then 65, which is the epilogue. What does Edward's willingness to give Anita a pass if she had killed Olaf tell us about Edward's depth of feelings for the kids? And it just shows, Edward kind of has these hard and fast rules and how things go when you're doing business with him. And one of those is not killing, one of his other backups. And he kind of has this hard and fast rule because it keeps people in line. When you're dealing with a lot of different, dangerous people and they're working together, you have to have a way to keep them in line. And they have to know that that line's not going to move at all. And so I think it just shows truly how much he cared for the kids that you know, with her part and what the role she played, like if she had ended up killing Olaf, he wouldn't have even cared at all. Which is kind of out of character for him, and I don't think he lets people influence him in that manner. And the fact that the kids do have that influence over him just shows how deeply he does care for them. So that is it for the discussion questions for the last set of chapters. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you agreed with me or not. And definitely make sure you come back next Monday to check out my final thoughts because I can't wait to talk about them. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Don't forget, next Monday, we are also going to be starting Lady Boss by Jackie Collins. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.